Welcome to our second podcast in Advent from All Saints Church in Small Heath, when we think about the traditional themes of Advent week by week. And today we're going to be thinking about the theme of peace. And today I have my friend and neighbour Chris with me, and we're going to be thinking a little bit about the theme of peace, about another theme. A little bit like last week, another theme which might be connected with the pandemic, and that theme is isolation. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me today. Just thinking about the theme of peace and thinking about what might give us peace and what might stir us up. You've been, until recently, you've run a project called Lone Wolf, which is a meet-up group for people who are feeling isolated and lonely. When did you start that meet-up group?
That will be about 3 years ago now.
Okay, and so what was it that got you thinking about starting up the group?
Well, it was around Christmas time 3 years ago. I was experiencing of isolation, loneliness, sort of not very close to my family, not many friends around. So I looked on this website. I was looking for a group for people like myself who are finding themselves alone a lot of the time. Couldn't find one, so I just had this idea that I'd create one myself.
And was that straightforward to do? Sounds quite. I don't know, where I'd start with that. So how did you go about doing that?
Well, initially I was going to call it something like Coping with Loneliness.
Right.
And then I realised that title doesn't sound too appealing.
No.
And people's names would be on the group, so other people are going to see that. And
yeah.
Like this, it's a bit of a stigma attached. I think, especially toward men. I've found admitting loneliness is something that it's quite hard for people to do.
Yeah.
Not just men, but as a man, I've found that hard myself. What was the question again?
Yeah, so it's just because I was just thinking, I don't know if you said to me today, can you set up a group for people that are feeling isolated? I don't know where I'd start. So I was just wondering how you set the group up.
So it happened really quickly, actually. Within about an hour, the whole group was up and running. The words just came straight through. Because of the experiences I've been through, it's very easy to write about, to talk about, and I just put my own feelings down on that page.
This is on a website.
On a website,
yeah.
And then the idea of Lone Wolf came through, which I had heard from somewhere else before. I'm not sure where. Lone Wolf, it sounded like a big caller,
yeah, it sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, put a picture of a wolf up on its own, a wolf walking on water.
Yeah.
And turns out the picture was quite appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Itself, but within about 2 or 3 months, there was about 1,000 people had joined that quickly, which I was quite surprised about.
So this is online. You put it on a website.
Yeah.
Put it on a website for people that want to meet up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you described your kind of thoughts around being isolated, and you advertised a time and a place for people to gather together.
Yeah, just for coffee and chat, really, and to sort of just connect with each other, find out each other's stories, and finding that there's a lot of commonalities. Some people, it was their kids left home or they got divorced. Yeah. Others just don't seem like they fit in or belong to any particular group. Some people really enjoy their own company and thrive with that. I've had times like that myself. A bit of both, a bit of loneliness, a bit of solitude.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So it's just about getting people together in that respect.
So you had 1,000 people following you, and so you organised your first meeting in a coffee shop?
Yeah, well, the first meeting, the group hadn't been officially announced. Unless you looked for it on the website, you wouldn't have seen it. So
Okay.
I was set upon within the first week before it was official.
Yeah.
And no one put their names down, so I
Okay.
just went for coffee on my own.
Yeah.
Which I do anyway, so
Okay.
it's fine.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, but then it went official, and a week later I set up another coffee meet up in a hotel, and I think there was about 12 of us around the table.
Right. And so it's quite a thing, isn't it? So you got 12 people who have read what you'd had to say about isolation, and it kind of caught their imagination. And then kind of 12 strangers meet up for the first time, and it's a really interesting idea. And you ran the group for some time, but what sort of people were attracted to the Lone Wolf group then? Is it possible to say, was there a type of person, or what sort of people came?
I found initially there was quite a few people that were on the spectrum for autism,
Right.
Finding it hard to mix with, well, I don't want to say normal people, but you know what I'm saying. The other is what I mentioned before: people that had got divorced, the kids had left home,
Sort of family difficulties. Yeah.
They were sort of, people that were 50 plus years old in general.
Okay.
And there was quite a few therapists as well, counsellors, psychologists, that found themselves taking on a lot of other people's problems and felt alone in that. They didn't know they needed some form of therapy themselves, so they were using this group. I was told by a few for that reason, it's therapy.
So it's quite it's quite a mixed. So you're talking about sort of very mixed group of people from like different. It sounds as if some of them are like from very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And did people get on? Did people talk? Was it difficult to get them talking? How did that?
There were some people that struggled, and I was one of those people at times. Struggling to sort of get involved in the conversation. It depended on the conversation itself.
Yeah.
Because I think with any group, you find if the group's a larger one, there's cliques forming where people want to sit with that person they sat with last week rather than engage with someone that's new to the group.
Yeah.
I'd always sort of gravitate towards the ones that seemed like they were alone within the group.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the reasons I started it, was because loneliness for me was more sort of apparent within a group of people than when I was on my own.
Yeah, I was going to sort of talking about isolation itself. I mean, many people might be wondering when I said at the start of this that the theme this week would be peace. Why we're talking about isolation and loneliness, but I don't know what you think. I think isolation and loneliness about as far away from peace as it's possible to get. They're the opposite of being at peace. I think isolation. I think it's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, to me, isolation is more sort of when you're on your own and sort of almost feeling of being trapped and not knowing what to do. There's an element of boredom involved in that as well.
Yeah.
But isolation can be something that's almost pushed onto you. It's not something anyone chooses.
No.
But it might look like that from, say someone is feeling isolated and trapped in their own home.
Yeah.
They might be asked, well, do you want to come for coffee with me? And they might say no, and it's because they've become trapped in their own thinking almost.
Absolutely.
And that's not a nice place to be.
I think that's difficult. That's difficult, isn't it? Because I can see how that would happen. Because there can come a point, I think, where you, even if somebody reaches out to you to sort of say, would you like to come and do this, or come and do something different, you're going to say no, because the isolation is it's kind of self-perpetuating, isn't it? It can go round in a cycle in the end if we get really stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced a lot of it, and I'd say that sort of the loneliness is a very similar thing as well.
Yeah.
But the difference with loneliness is you can experience that when you're around other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah.
both are sort of disconnection, really.
Yeah.
You know, and away from peace, like you say.
Yeah. It just seems to be the polar opposite. Well, I'm going to draw this chat with Chris to an end now, but I'm going to be talking to him offline about some questions I think we all ought to be asking ourselves about isolation and loneliness, both in terms of our own isolation and loneliness, but also in terms of what we could be doing for other people, both as individuals, but also as a church community. So, Chris, thanks ever so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And we'll put some questions together and we'll offer them out. I wonder if you reflected upon this podcast, whether you might feel that you're carrying negative or uncomfortable feelings about something. Perhaps you're carrying negative or uncomfortable feelings, but you're not really sure where they come from. These things are not very pleasant to carry, but they are symptomatic. In a way, they are a friend because they nudge us to realise that there is something wrong, something that we need to attend to. In terms of loneliness, very often it's a case of breaking a cycle. Very often people have been lonely for some time before they even contemplate doing something about it. And it's certainly not an easy thing to crack. But again, as we were saying in the podcast, loneliness can create some very negative and uncomfortable feelings far away from peace, suggesting that we do need to grapple with it and do something about it. We're very fortunate at church here that we also, as well as having a food bank and a cafe that we talked about last week, we also host something called Listen and Connect. Over the course of the pandemic, there were many people who were suffering from isolation already, and being isolated, having to live separately from other people, compounded that isolation. And the Listen and Connect service enabled people to chat with somebody on the phone on a regular basis. And now that things have moved on, Listen and Connect, as well as still offering phone support and friendship, now meets in person here in the church once a fortnight. And so people scattered across Birmingham who were once having chats on the phone with the organisation are now able to come and meet together. And I know that particular community really appreciate the space that we're able to offer in the church, and they have a variety of activities and conversations and chats about different things. And so I guess the questions today are as follows. Are we carrying feelings about something perhaps we're not able to put our finger on exactly what it is, but are we carrying negative feelings that make us feel uncomfortable? What's our gut instinct about these, and what can we do to alleviate them? The second question is, what can the church do to help with loneliness? We're a community of people gathered together, followers of Jesus, and we're called to be in community. Being a Christian isn't about being in isolation, it's about being with other brothers and sisters. And thirdly, are we aware of people who are lonely, who are struggling with isolation? Are we able to help with that ourselves? Are we able to alleviate that suffering by offering the simple gift of friendship, a phone call, maybe a short visit? A card through the post can make all the difference. As we prepare for the birth of Jesus, we remind ourselves that God is a God of peace who came into the world as a man to herald the message of peace. As his followers, we're called to spread that message ourselves, to spread it abroad, to live peaceably in our own lives, and to spread that message with those around us. My prayer for each of us, all of us, this week is that we can live peaceable lives and that we are ready to receive him again afresh this coming Christmas, that peace of God which passes all understanding may enter our hearts when we celebrate his birth.